comes a new challenger. That's enough. Unbeatable.
This is the Lives Street Fighter Alpha 3 podcast with your hosts, Had0k3n and Lukefitz.
It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Lives podcast. My name is Luke and I'm joined as always by Quest. And today we'll be talking to two guests for the first time. And first up, we have the honor of welcoming Carvd, who's a long-time Street Fighter player, woodworker, and a fight stick designer, amongst many other things. So without further ado, over to you, Quest, to kick off the show.
Thanks, Luke. Welcome to the podcast, Carvd. How are you today?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're looking forward to this one. So, I was thinking about the name Carvd. Is the meaning behind the name based off one of your projects, like making sticks?
Yeah, when I started making tables and stuff, like two-player coffee table setups, back when Mortal Kombat was out for Super Nintendo.
Wow.
With the half parts and stuff. I remember we used to drive to Baltimore. I think it was called Glen Burnie to get the parts. And then a few years back, after playing on like the Mad Catz TE sticks, I kind of wanted to make something similar to that, but without like, I don't really care for like the 8-button face layout. I like the old school 6-button style.
Yeah, okay.
Straight across. I wanted that, and I also didn't want like any joints or seams on it, or like screws or glue in it. So I just figured I'd start with like a big solid block of wood and carve out the bottom parts that I needed for the PCB and buttons and joysticks. So that's kind of where it come from.
Oh, nice. From talking to you, you have quite the history when it comes to gaming. Which Street Fighter game did you start with?
I know for a fact I've played Street Fighter 1 at our Timeout arcade on like before 2 come out. But I was pretty much there right when 2, like within the first week of when Street Fighter 2 World Warrior was released.
Wow, okay. So that's like the golden age of Street Fighter, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean it was lines, if you lost, you're standing in a good 20-30 minute line at least to get back up.
Yep. Do you remember the names of the arcades you played in? You mentioned one. And
yeah, no, I remember. Timeout was like our main arcade. It was out at the Valley Mall, and then eventually Pocket Change. I think it was called Pocket Change. Bought them out and moved it up kind of towards where the movie theaters was, and it stayed Pocket Change until the arcade left the mall.
So most of those arcades kind of shut down now. That seems to be the pattern, around the place.
Yeah, I mean we don't really have any what I would consider like hometown arcades or anything like that. There's a Tilt Studio, which is kind of like a off-brand Dave and Buster's, I guess you'd say. And there's like a Chuck E. Cheese that has arcades in it, but I don't even think that Chuck E. Cheese has anything but like ticket redemption games and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, it's not like a classic arcade. It's not the kind of arcade where great Street Fighter players will come from.
Now there might be a few machines in like the bowling alleys around here, and maybe like the bars. I don't know. I don't ever go out to any bars or anything like that. But
yeah, sure.
I don't think there's definitely not any arcade focused places where the games are first. It's more about going to the bar, and then there might be a game or two in the corner.
Yeah, that's a similar situation to what's happening over here as well. It's like mostly it's around movie theaters or bowling lanes. That's where you see the arcade machines. Not many dedicated arcades around. When you started in the arcades, what was the culture like?
Oh, I mean, it was pretty crazy, because everybody was just learning. Like, as you all know, Street Fighter 1 is notorious for being really hard to do special moves. And, I actually figured out an easier way. If you hold, let's say you want to throw a fireball and you hold 3 punches down. If you just like negative edge with all 3 punches, that'll give you 3 shots at throwing it, and it'll increase your specials by at least 50 to 60%. You'll be throwing fireballs at least 50% of the time instead of 10%.
So you still play Street Fighter 1? Or?
Yeah, I played it the other week. Not against anybody, just just played a game through.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, with the arcades, 2 is definitely a lot easier to do specials and things like that. So people, it was people mainly mashing them out, I'd say at first, because nobody was tight with their inputs or anything like that yet. There's also the throw rule, like certain arcades, everybody had the regulars, and if you could get into a fight if you ended up throwing, especially tick throws, like that was a pretty looked down upon thing.
Why was that? What's the background behind that? Like, it seems like, how can you stop someone from just blocking the whole round if you can't throw them?
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of weird because it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, you got Zangief, which it's kind of part of his moveset. Like, that's
exactly.
So it was like, I don't know. I mean, people would still do it, because you might have a random that come in that wasn't a regular at that arcade, and he would do it. And I honestly, I never knew, because I always just played with throws. But I think it was looked down upon because there was no way to soften throws or tech throws. So.
Yep. Well, let's talk Alpha 3. At what point did it become your main fighting game, and why?
I'd say, well, I didn't play the game when it released. I took a break. I've taken several breaks throughout the years, and I think I started in Alpha 3 in 2000 maybe. I mean, I might have actually played it in '98, but not played it religiously or whatever. Just maybe put it in a few times. And I'd say about 2000 to 2001 is when we actually got into it.
Oh, nice. So, what about it appealed to you?
Well, there was actually a couple guys that had just recently moved into the area, and they were, a decent challenge for a while at least, without knowing much of the mechanics of the game and stuff, whereas before there wasn't very many local players that were good or fun to play, I should say. And and then just the system itself, like, I like the way that there's more mind games in the air as well as the ground, with being able to recover, change your recovery, not to recover,
rolling,
rolling when you land, or air blocking, and when you land, rolling or not rolling. And that's a thing I've been telling a few people that asked me for tips recently, was I noticed when they jump, there's no reason to never just option select block when you're jumping in on somebody. You can still air throw, you can still attack, but that's one thing I noticed some new players don't do.
So by option select, you mean like hold back
when you jump. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you jump at somebody, there's no reason to not hold back.
And wait till the last moment to actually attack.
Right. Well, you can still throw your attack whenever you wanted to, or you can go for the air throw or whatever. But that's like it gives you that free block when you jump.
Yeah. Good tip.
Yeah. You played on GGPO. Were there any strong Alpha 3 players back then that don't get any recognition today?
Man, Had0k3n. I guess that's how you pronounce his name, from Paris, I think it was, or France, somewhere over there. Ryu 1999. He was the first person I could actually tell was using a keyboard, because he never messed up his blue fireballs in the corner with a Ryu VS. And that's real easy to do on pad or joystick. Occasionally you'll definitely throw one and break the loop. But he never did. And trying to think who else was back there. Saber, I think he was. Okay. I'm pretty sure he was on the beginning of GGPO.
So it was a pretty reasonable standard of play then, it sounds like. Like, people knew what they were doing.
What you mean when GGPO started?
Yeah. Or was it still people learning the game?
No, I mean, there was no, not for sure. I mean, I remember when people started bringing crouch cancels into it, and stuff like that. But no, there wasn't really any beginners, I would say, on there. Like, everybody on there even experienced, and I'd say, to an extent, as much as some people are today, if not more in some areas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when did you become aware of crouch canceling? That seems to be something that came up a bit later than 98, right?
I don't know the exact year. Right at first, I definitely was, and not for a while. I'd say I don't even know if, like, I think it was B3 that they had Alpha 3.
No, they don't have it.
I don't think they did any crouch canceling in that.
There's not.
Maybe, and I really don't know, to be honest with you. It wasn't probably playing GGPO was the first time I'd played with people that had done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or used it.
So what characters?
I actually never even used it myself until probably several months ago.
Oh, really? Well, what did you learn?
It's something that never really interested me in the game, because, like, I don't know, it goes both ways, like some people say if you don't use it, then you're a scrub, blah blah blah, whatever, and if you do use it, then you get the people that complain about the infinites. So
yeah, exactly.
But in Alpha 3, it's infinites in that game aren't like they are in, like, Marvel 2. Like, like, for example, Vega, you could jump right off the bat in Alpha 3, or at any given moment hit somebody with an air counter hit, jump short, and that's the round. Like, there's literally nothing you can do about it. And at least in, like, Marvel 2, if you hit somebody with, like, say Iron Man hits you with any attack in the air, you can go into a ground infinite. Well, he still has to snap and get a guard break on the next person coming in.
Yeah, it's not the whole team.
It's not given to him. Yeah, like, there's stuff that has to change, and you have. I mean, and again with crouch canceling, you still have chances to drop it, but I just think it comes from less. And on top of coming from less, you get iframes when you activate. So there, some characters can go into it through an activation and stuff like that too. So yeah, I'm still I do it occasionally, but I would rather, like, if I win around by doing that, make a comeback and just happen to get lucky, don't drop it, and end up killing the person. To me, it still doesn't feel like I won. It's like
okay, it's interesting.
Yep. So you partially answered this question just then, but before the podcast, you told me you have a different take on the infinite ban that we have here in Australia. What is your take on it?
Oh, I mean, in a way, it's like, the thing is, not allowing it is, or if you do allow it or try to set up rules around it, it's just going to be so hard to do. You can obviously tell when somebody's doing it, like crouch canceling and stuff. And you can do it in other isms too. You don't have to be in V-ism. It's just, in a way, it's like it does add stuff to the game, and in another way, it takes so much from the game.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I'll ask you to. Sorry, continue.
If it was my tournament, I would just probably let it rock and see how bad it gets. If people are getting upset by it. But on the other hand, if you guys are having fun the way you're doing it now, why change it? It's not like you're doing, like, it's not like there's some big pro league for it and tons of money involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before you're saying one of the underutilized mechanics is air blocking. When we had MTSL Sandman on the podcast, he said he doesn't like air blocking. He said it encouraged defensive play. What is your take on that?
It depends. Like, I would rather have air blocking than parrying, because you can still use grounded normals versus air blocking. It's not like it's 100% safe way out.
Yeah, yep, that's true.
Like, I think it actually gives a little bit more depth, but in a way, it's like, it does kind of suck if you're making people jump a lot and they're still blocking, but you can always change up what you're, instead of going for a dragon punch, just use a standing grounded normal, and they can't block that.
As air throws, as you were saying, air throws become a much bigger part of the game than, in Street Fighter 2.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like, because of that, the factor that you can air block, so if you preemptively jump at somebody and they end up jumping, and they were trying to maybe like counter you out of the air with an air attack or something. Like a lot of characters, can pull you, especially like Dowson. That's one of his strongest points, is staying in the air, waiting for somebody to jump or even dragon punch at the wrong time, and you can suck that up with an air throw.
Yeah.
Yep. Your main Birdies, who is low on the tier list, what appeals to you about him?
I think he's fun. It's like you got to work. It's like he doesn't really have the free reign that like an Akuma or something would have. So I mean, actually, my main character is V. Dowson.
Yep.
But
oh wow! So you're from one extreme to the other, from the most
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I've played Birdie more, at least recently, and he's funner, and that's another reason. I think like Dowson, he just has options for everything, and with Birdie, it feels like you actually play the player more than just use your character's strengths. When they jump at you, I have to decide, what are they going to use to jump at me this time? Do I want to try to get a trade, get a clean hit, back away, not challenge it? But like Dowson, for example, I could just stand there and stand jab. Doesn't matter what they jump at me with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Who would you say is your favorite person to play these days?
I mean, I have several.
Yep.
Tank is definitely up there. Like, I think he's probably. I don't want to put people on blast or anything like that, but I'd say overall, me and him have played multiple games together, like EX2 plus, Hyper Fighter, Mortal Kombat games, Alpha 3, and he's just really solid everywhere.
Yep. Sorry.
I spar a lot at night with like Temujin, and he's, great. Be secure, good challenge. I mean, I'll play anybody, man. Really, these are just ones I've played probably more so than others, and it's always good matches and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't really dislike playing anybody, if that words it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to make that sort of assertion, but yeah. Yeah, Tank's. I've seen some of your matches with Tank. He plays Charlie sometimes against you, and that's always a very challenging matchup for Birdies.
Oh yeah, like that. He probably does better against me than anybody else, I'd say, especially with that Charlie. And his Geef also gives me mad trouble with Birdie.
Yeah, so you really thrive on that challenge. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean I don't mind losing. That's the thing. I don't get salty. I would rather you learn more from losing than you do from winning. When people get upset about losing, I've always tried to put it in perspective for them. It's like, let's say there's just you and one other person that you could play games with, and that was it. You never got, like, this is just a scenario, like a made-up scenario.
Yeah, sure.
What would you rather choose? Would you rather choose somebody who just plays at the average skill, like a 3-year-old, and you just dominate them every single time? And I mean, and I'm putting it to the extremes here. Or would you rather have somebody who, is the hardest fight you've ever fought, and you might only win 1 out of 100? I think in the long run, you'd rather have the hard person, because the other person is just going to get boring.
Yep. At least you're growing. You have space to improve.
Right.
Yep. Which is the best emulator to play Alpha 3
on? I mean, man, my favorite is still MAME, like just regular old MAME.
Okay.
I still feel, I think 30th anniversary runs the game slightly too fast. I think Fightcade 2 for sure runs the game slightly too fast. I know it still has dropped inputs, like, you'll go to input something, nothing come out.
Fightcade 2 does.
Yeah, I think that's to do maybe with frame skip. If you input an attack or whatever whenever it skipped the frame and those two lined up. I don't know what causes it, but some nights I get more skipped inputs than others for sure.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yep. I told Shine that we're going to have 2 Fightcade of online players on the podcast. His question for you guys was, what do you think of ranked play and his first 2 sets that are in Fightcade 2 now?
Oh, I mean, that's fine. I don't mind ranked. It's something different to do. I haven't really played much of it. I think I've only done 2 ranked, or maybe 1 ranked set actually. I usually just do unranked because, especially if it's somebody I don't know, I don't want them to think that I'm like in there trying to poach, and I don't really. I think it's a cool feature for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a real biased opinion one way or the other of it. If somebody really wants to get the rank up and they enjoy doing that, then more power to them.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fair enough. You work as a technician at an arcade. You say the arcade machines are more rigged now than before. How so?
Oh, when we were well, at least when I was growing up, I'm 43 now. So when we were younger, like for example, claw machines, the most thing that they could do with like as far as chicha would be turn the strength itself of the claw down some, whereas now they can actually, since they can actually just set it so that only 1 out of every 20 players wins. Like, so they can adjust it so the claw strength is only 40% of what it actually could be, and it's only 40% strength, 10% of the time or something like that.
So is there rules about how, can they just set it to never win? Is there rules about what you're allowed to do there?
Yeah, I think each state has its own rules over here of like what the percentage of win rate has to be. It's just the sad part is those games are all presented as like skill games,
Yeah, very cool,
like the ones where you time the cyclone is called. There's it's like a circle with a dome on the top of it, and there's lights that go around, and you have to like try to time the stop at when the lights stop in like a certain space of area, and it's always meant to, that thing is also only meant to pay out every so often. So you could be right on the money every single time and you'll never hit until your time comes up to hit.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is like they're, and even in the service manuals, a lot of them call it like cheater mode. Like that's actually what the description of like the, that area of, how to set the machine up is.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, you can download these service manuals online from Google and look and see them, especially ones that are 10, 12, 15 years old. They'll be on there. And it's just, I don't like it, because even when you do win, you're not winning, you're still losing, because the prizes usually aren't worth what you're paying to play the game.
What you're putting in, yeah. And at least if you're like feeding quarters into Street Fighter 2 or something, you're getting something for the experience as well. Whereas with that, you're only in it for the prize. It's like you don't get anything out of spending that money.
Yeah, I mean, the draw to, yeah, exactly. It's like you can't really level up your claw machine game. Like you just, and the thing is, it's like, especially the ones that are made to pick the item up every time, but the retaining power is only like 10% or something. So it's like, you'll see the kid, he's got the item and it's getting ready to bring it over to the drop box, and it just slips out of the claw. And you see that 19 out of 20 times. There's only 1 out of 20 times that you see the kid actually win the prize.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Well, you said 10%. In these manuals, is there specific numbers of how strong the claw is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they break it all down for you. Like, some of those machines are only set to hit 1 out of like 900 times.
Well,
yeah.
That's the default. That's the default setting. They could change it if they wanted to. The operator.
Oh yeah, they could make it hit 1 out of 1 time if they wanted to. Yep.
Yeah.
It's meant to not land on that. Yeah. So.
It sounds like the pokies, like in that you're losing inherently. But I've heard arcades cost a lot to keep running. How much do you reckon?
I mean,
sorry.
Ours is, the one I work at isn't like a small. It's an old Macy's store, so they're pretty huge. So I mean, I don't know what the rent is there per month, but I know our electric bill there I think is like $35,000 a month.
Really, $35,000 a month?
Yeah,
really, that's pretty significant.
Just on electric. Yeah. What about
just on electric?
On repairs?
I mean, it depends. I do component level repair. That's mainly what I do. So, I don't we don't order a lot of like whole PCB boards or things like that. So the more expensive stuff I'd say that we order is more like motors and things like that. When they go out, I don't rebuild those. But it depends on the game. I'd say the average repair is probably between 150 to 250 in parts, somewhere around there, maybe.
A week or a month? I said.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah,
like overall.
Yeah, overall.
Per month, I'd say, depending on the game, it really depends, because that's the thing. It's if if you
give us an example of a game where it requires a little repair, and then.
Yeah, like let's say we got like a classic arcade game, for example. Like you could have something like like Space Invaders or Joust or something,
Yeah.
And if a part goes out on that game, most likely I can just put the logic probe on it, and find out what's bad, replace it. And you're talking about a repair that's under $5 or something. But if you take one of the newer virtual reality games, and like let's say we got this one, it's Moto VR. That game is $65,000.
Wow.
So if you but I'd say an average repair on that would be probably between $500 and $700, and it just varies. One month we could have maybe like 1,500 in repairs, and the next month we might just have, or we might have like 3,000. But nothing ever really crazy. I mean, we do definitely save a lot of money repairing stuff in house and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think the arcade? Sorry. Do you think the arcade makes back that money purely through the machines, or do they make it through the selling food and drinks and stuff? Like, is it enough to sustain itself, keeping the repair?
Oh no, yeah. Ours for sure. That we have a Virtual Rabbits game, and that was $95,000, and in 3 months that machine had paid for itself.
Whoa.
Alone, but it's $8 a play.
Whoa. Really? $8 a play.
$8. Yeah. For
so
one play.
Can you describe what that does, like the machine?
Oh, that machine, it's not even a game. It's it's considered a game, but you just sit in a seat, you put a headset on, and it rocks forward and backwards, and you watch like a little snow, I guess you're a guy on a sled or something. I've actually never played it or sat in it.
Okay.
You just look at it like, what is this stupid?
But I think it lasts, I want to say 3 to 4 minutes per game, maybe. So you figure if they can fit 20 of those in an hour, and they're $8 a play, it doesn't take long to get their money back,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's quite a big arcade. Is there any like unique games or variations of a game that you normally wouldn't see in arcades, like something just bigger than the usual Daytona thing or claw?
We do have I think it's a 6 or 8 car Indy 500. That's like the full body car Sega game.
Yeah, nice.
And it's like full motion. The entire car moves. It's on a pretty big screen. Trying to think if there's.
Do you have Street Fighter games?
We have. I think it's X-Men versus Street Fighter. We
classic,
have. We have the classics when it comes, and some, I guess, semi-new ones, but not anything remotely new. Like we have like SVC Chaos. We have Guilty Gear XX, CVS 2, Tekken 5, Tekken 6.
Okay.
And
so kind of that mid 2000s era.
Yeah, yep. And we have Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 there.
No Alpha 3?
No Alpha 3, sadly, nope.
Those beautiful big white cabinets they had for Alpha 3, didn't they? Is that a common thing, or is that? I think I've seen them in that Japanese footage from the 1998 like.
Oh,
they had those huge.
I've never
white cabs.
seen those. Yeah, I've never seen those in person. I know what you're talking about. They had like the really, really big monitors in them. Maybe even they might even been projection. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But we have a couple showcase cabs. I think they all carry either 32 or 33-inch monitors, and they have like the separate pedestal that has your joysticks on them.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
Where did your interest in kind of maintenance and even a bit of woodworking and that kind of thing start? Is that something that's always interested you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been building furniture and stuff for at least 20 years or more.
Yeah,
and in 2007, I started my own electronics repair business, and I still have it.
Yeah.
it's service work in homes and stuff. And honestly, I just get tired of driving because if you really want to make a lot of money in that, you're going to put a lot of time on the road.
Yeah, sure. Just getting to people's houses.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, actually, I'll be real quick about it. But when I got out of high school, I went and worked at a factory, working 12-hour shifts, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And I did that for 10 years.
It's not easy.
Right out of school. And then during the last few years of that, I was teaching myself electronics when I would get home from work and stuff. And that's basically how I got started in it.
So what was that like, working the full-on like night shift for 10 years? How did that kind of impact your life?
I mean, it was swing shift, 2 weeks of days, 2 weeks of nights. But
okay, yeah.
I always had trouble going back to day shift. And even to right now, I still can't keep a early morning schedule. Like the earliest I'll wake up is usually 9. Like,
okay, yeah.
You know, I can't do like the 6 a.m. stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely changes your rhythm, I'd say. You know, it's odd. I don't think it's healthy for you, but it's what it is. You know.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah. You had an accident on the job recently. How did it happen, and how is your recovery coming along?
Oh, yeah, I had a level 3 sprain on my left ankle coming off of actually working on one of those enormous crane machines and stepped down on a ledge, and I hit this slanted board where the prop chute is and rolled it. And I was out from April 15th until I'd say a little over 2 months ago, something like that.
Wow, okay, yeah, that sucks.
Yep. So, but it's still swelled, believe it or not, but it's not hurting like it was.
Yeah, okay.
You said enormous crane machine. I mean, how big are we talking?
Like
enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 by 12 feet by 12 feet tall.
12 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
That's
you
crazy.
got to go in there to work on it. It's huge, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have nothing like that here.
Yeah, this is a serious arcade that you're working.
We have two of those. We have 4 more which are bigger, and then we have 2 more that are 2 stories high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're $10 a play.
Yeah. Wow. This is a high end. Is this one of the biggest arcades like in the area?
Oh yeah, it's like a Dave and Buster's size arcade. It's just privately owned. It's the only thing.
Yeah. Wow.
And a technician manager job popped up, and I was like, you know, because I can control my business as far as like, do I want to accept more work? I just shrink my call radius, you know. And I was like, I'll see, you know, I'll put in, see if they'll give me what I want, and you know, to give it a try. And I already like working with arcades and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd be a perfect applicant given your you know, played a lot of arcade games in your time.
Yeah. I mean, I like it a lot, you know. I'm not so much into the crane games, and I don't like ripping people off, but that's not my call, you know.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's talk about your arcade stick, or just fight stick building.
Before we get to the sticks,
okay, you got one more?
Yeah, on the arcades, you have an arcade cabinet collection in your basement. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't have as many as I used to, but I still have, I think, 6 or 7.
How many did you have at the most when you had it?
It was either 28 or 31.
Wow.
And they were all vintage, like, so from 1978 till 1983, nothing past that.
Wow, that's beautiful. What was your proudest game in your collection?
I had a Sinistar Cockpit. I had a Pepper 2 Exidy. I had a Crawl that was really nice. Satan's Hollow, an Ireland Food Fight, Robotron. Man, I mean, I pretty much had, you know, the bulk of the games, I'd say, both rare and common.
What did you do with them? Did you have like a little arcade setup down there that you could play at, or more like a collection?
No, it was, you know, whenever friends come over and stuff, we'd fire them up, and
nice.
They would all come on, and it was wall-to-wall arcades. And then, you know, just play them. It would heat the basement up pretty quick with all those machines on.
Big power bill.
Yeah, not too bad. I didn't run them every night. You don't. These things get very expensive to repair. You know, when you're the one footing the bill. Well, not I guess for a big business, but for a home personal use. If a joystick goes out and that joystick isn't made anymore, and you have to find somebody selling one for $300, that's pretty brutal.
Why do they break so much? Like, why is it just because they're old technology and like they get worn out over time, or like what is it about them that needs to be repaired?
Yeah, I mean, some like the monitors all pretty much need cap kits. You could have weak picture tubes. You can only rejuve those so much. You get screen burn-in on some monitors. You have to replace the tube on that. You get loose connections on PCBs, bad RAM, bad socketed chips. There's so much. I mean, most of the stuff you can fix with a logic probe and a multimeter. Sometimes you might need to bring a scope out or something like that, but for the most part, you can just logic probe your way around. And a lot of times it might just be the power supply died also. So it's stuff like that. But it's just age. We're talking 30 plus years now on these machines.
A lot of use.
Cabinets are expensive. They take up space. What makes them worth it to you when you can just play on emulators?
Just like the real thing. Like, I don't know. It's just something about, I think it's just maybe part of, like, because I remember it as a child, or a kid. Yeah. It's just something different about standing up in that cabinet with the artwork and, especially the picture tubes instead. I just even though I ran electronics business since 2007, I really don't like flat screen TVs. Like, especially for old games, it just doesn't have the same feel or look or aspect ratio, as the classic stuff does. Plus, there's no lag or input delay and stuff to worry about. It's like nowadays there's no way. Setup. Yeah, that's why I try not to worry too much about emulators, which one's the best, how accurate, because you got your delay from your monitor. Then what kind of delay does the emulator have? How much input delay is on that? And then you got your keyboard, your USB device that you're using to actually play with. How much delay does that have? It's like, and then on top of that, you're playing it online.
Yeah, exactly. So it adds up.
Yeah, exactly.
You make arcade sticks. What made you decide to get into that?
I only live about 5 minutes from a real nice Mennonite wood mill. And, I've always enjoyed making stuff out of wood, like, furniture, doing repairs around the house or building stuff, decks, living rooms, suits, whatever. Yeah, sure. And I don't know, I just figured I'd give it a shot. I've made them before when you couldn't, because before there was no Mad Catz TE sticks and stuff. You either bought like a Moss stick or you just played on whatever joystick the stores brought out. And the only decent ones I can think of before the Mad Catz ones was the Namco stick that was like gray and had yellow buttons. I don't know if y'all remember that.
No,
the Dreamcast. Had0k3n stick. That one was decent. And there was I think they had a 20th anniversary joystick that maybe Capcom released that was pretty decent. I know I had it.
Yeah. Okay.
But so this is that was the main reason. Just
Yeah. Just what do you look for in a fight stick? Like, what makes a good fight stick for you?
I like weight.
Okay.
I like it. 8 pounds plus at least, so it doesn't move around because I play on my lap. I like enough room from my wrist not to roll off the edge or feel anything in the front of it for the joystick. I like room on both sides of my buttons. I don't like curved button layouts. I like thinner sticks, but
I noticed that.
Because I don't like it. I don't know. It's comfortable the way I hold my arms, and I like the sticks to be at least 18 inches wide, for the stability. Depth maybe 11 inches. And I'm not too strict on hardware. I can play from Famitsu to Sanwa to Hori. Same with buttons. Right now, currently, I'm using Crown Samduxas and a Famitsu joystick.
Okay, right. Yeah, I noticed you have a lot of beautiful designs in wood as well. Like, do you prefer that? You said you like it all being in one piece as opposed to having a lot of screws and stuff, but do you like the wood feel compared to metal or plastic?
Actually I do, especially over metal because, if you ever felt like, metal is like granite in a way, and glass as well. It's like
Mhm.
those surfaces will have like the same, be like the ambient temperature of the room. So if you go into a room that's air conditioned and you're sitting there playing on your joystick, the top of that stick, if it's metal, is going to be whatever the room is until your arms and stuff warming up. But with wood and plastic is also in this category. It stays a little warmer to the touch, So you see those pros using those hand warmers, and then they go get on like say a Victric stick or whatever, and it's got that
maybe they wouldn't
aluminum
need
top.
Yeah.
It's going to cool their hands right back down, Plus, I don't know, wood just seems a little bit more natural. It's not as cold, not as like I don't know. It's
Sterile.
just something about because you can paint it, stain it.
Yeah.
Leave it natural. Some of the designs I've done wood burning into it. I don't know. It's just you can be creative with it, and it just has a good feel to it. It reminds me of kind of like those old late 80s skateboards or early 90s skateboards.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like an electric guitar, finish.
Yeah,
Stuff
I was
like
thinking that
Just,
a lot of your designs remind me of electric guitars. They have that kind of feel to them.
yeah. That's if you get a good finish, good buff, good polish on it, you'll get that good finish, and it feels real nice in the hands. It's got the weight.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you sell them anywhere, or what do you do with your finished sticks?
I've sold a few, and I've got some people want to commission me to build a few recently, just from pictures. I haven't advertised or anything. I've posted a few pictures of sticks I've made, and that's how people have got a hold of me. But I meant to, get into that category, but I usually just end up playing games at night. And, I'm tired by the time I get home, and it's like on my days off, I get out there in the wood shop and I'll work, and then by the time I'm done, it's like, man, I don't want to come in and just work on a website, even though I should.
Say that.
I'm not too worried about it. I guess once I start running out of room for these, I should.
Yeah, we got a friend who just started an online store for fight sticks, so maybe we should have a collaboration with. This guy started this this Keycade kind of site. Anyway,
is he making his own, or?
I think he's kind of done the design and they're manufactured in a factory somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, a bit of a mix. But his kind of, you probably won't like this, but his distinguishing factor is that he sells basically like fight sticks, but instead of a joystick, there's like a WASD keyboard layout is one of the options.
Yeah, I've seen it. I can't remember what they're called. They're not hitboxes. They call them something else.
Yeah, it's something similar to that.
Yeah, it's like a hitbox, but for people that played with the arrow keys on a keyboard or something.
Yeah. What do you think about playing on keyboard? You said before it's easy to do certain moves, or?
Yeah, I personally would never do it because playing on a joystick is part of the fun for me, But now, and I do think it definitely like lessens the skill level with something like Korean backdash and Tekken. You can literally hold down, I think, left and down and just tap right while holding those other two down, and the way it reads inputs. So 5 minutes in, you'll be wave dashing like crazy. Where other people it's taken months to. But and it you can always usually tell when somebody's playing on a keyboard or something. They don't miss as many inputs. And me personally, if I had to choose to play that person on a pad or a joystick where they wouldn't be as good, I'd rather them just use whatever they're best at.
Yeah. Okay.
So I personally don't like them, but I don't really care if people use them. It's whatever.
Yeah, more just a preference kind of thing. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. As somebody that is not familiar with this sort of thing, can you give us an overview of the process of making a stick?
Yeah. What I do is I go down to the mill, and the wood I work with is usually 2+ inches thick. So
okay,
I
so
just
we're talking pretty hefty chunk of wood.
like slabs kind of, and usually I'll just get an overall shape. Like mine are all pretty much rectangles without any crazy features. So I'll get the length, and measure that out, cut the length, mark. Once I get it squared away of where I'm happy with, then that's when I'll mark all the holes for like the stick and the buttons and things like that. And after that, go ahead and drill those out and then shape it and sand it. So that way, if you wanted to add a little character to it, or, more of a design than just the rectangle, you still I'd like, the main thing is you want to get that joystick centered so that when you have the stick squared up to your body and you press down, you're pressing exactly down, not like down and slanted a little bit to the left, or to the right. So that's why I do it in that early stage. So that way, I know for a fact that it's squared up. And then after I drill my holes, I'll flip the stick over, router the bottom of it out from where I'm needing buttons to be put in, the joystick and the PCB. And then from there, I just basically go to the finishing processes, which is, if somebody wants artwork on, after I route, then I sand. And that's usually what takes me the longest, is sanding. I can put more time in sanding easily than any other step of building the stick, by far.
Yep. And then do you have a maintenance kind of patch or something on the bottom, or does changing the buttons or the stick all just go straight through the top?
No, the way I do it is, so the top is the stick is completely solid, and I router out the bottom, and then I take plexiglass, and I don't just, you could just do a square design if you wanted to, and then I just cut it the shape of the routed out spot in the bottom, and then I was just using tension with like a little finger hold to plop it out, the tension would hold it back in. But now I've been sizing them just slightly smaller and just using tiny magnets. So I'll countersink several magnets in the plexiglass, glue them in, and then I'll countersink several magnets in the stick and glue those in.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
You just hover the bottom over the hole and it just snaps right in place with magnets. So that it's still toolless entry. It's just held on with magnets now.
Yeah, that's a sweet design. Have you seen that anywhere, or is that an original?
No, that's just something. No, I mean I haven't seen it anywhere.
Nice.
Figured. And I've also been looking into the magnetic USB connectors for the back instead of the Nutric things and stuff, the RJ45s people use. I don't see any reason why we couldn't use a magnetic USB attachment, And there would be a lot of pluses with that. If you accidentally, somebody walks across, pulls the cord out, it's not going to rip your RJ45 connector off. It'll just knock the magnetic connector off the back of the stick and, it's breakaway, basically.
Sure.
Doesn't do any lasting or permanent damage.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions, Luke?
No, that's about it for me. If you have a couple final ones.
I'd just like to end on an Alpha question. If Alpha 4 were to come out, what would you like to see?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, I'd like to keep air blocking in.
Vism?
I'd like to keep. If Vism is in it, I don't want iframes on startup.
Okay.
I don't want crouch canceling back. I think there's a better way to do that than that. That was the two big things that definitely remove the iframes at startup. I don't like Alpha 2's Vism, the way it moves your character forward. I like Alpha 3's the way it is. I just don't like the iframes. I mean, I use it. I think everybody uses Vism.
Just like walk up and they throw out anything and you just activate and blast.
It's just too much of a crutch, it's too strong. But I'd still keep it in there. I think that I would definitely keep it in. Trying to think, I might make alpha counters maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if I'd keep alpha counter kills. I probably would. I mean, that's kind of nice. It makes it really hard for the opponent, though. If you're in range to be killed with an alpha counter, your only option's to throw.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, at least there's still some mind game there. If they're just sweating on the alpha counter. You can just walk up and throw.
Right, and I'd say chip kills definitely keep. There isn't much I think Alpha 3 is, it's definitely one of the best games, fighting games ever made. And even with the flaws that it has, we all still play it.
Yeah,
and
sure.
and I enjoy the game either way, with Vism, without Vism. I definitely enjoy it more without, but to each their own with that. It's good game either way. If you got two Vism players, they're not going to activate for fear that the other one's going to go through theirs. So yeah, I mean, that's I don't know about Xism. Maybe they could just have two isms,
Get rid of Xism.
Yeah, because Xism
make it stronger, I guess.
Yeah, because when you think about Alpha 3, besides the fact that Vism has the iframes on startup and the custom combos, and they do less damage, like in normals, than Aism and Xism. But the other issue is they always seem to have the good move set as well.
The Vism, they do.
Yeah, like why doesn't Vega and Aism have the flip kick? Why is, you know what I mean? It's like, and like Sagat in Aism, he can't cancel low forward. Like,
There's lots of little limitations.
It's like not only do they get nerfed without having an activation that gives iframes, but they also don't get the good normals.
Yeah.
So I would definitely even that up too, or counter even it. Maybe give Aism the good normals, give Vism the bad normals if they're going to keep the Vism the same as it is. Just not everything in the one ism that's better than the other.
Yeah, interesting. All right.
Thanks for coming on. We'd like to have you on again sometime.
No problem, man. It was fun.
Yeah, we're sure you've got more stories to tell. But don't go away. We have another interview coming up right now. Thanks for sticking around for the first ever double interview edition of the Lives podcast. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now to Luke to introduce the next guest.
Thank you, Quest. And our second guest for today is a New York Street Fighter player, Fightcade legend, a boxer enthusiast, and a YouTuber. So it's a pleasure to welcome to the show Had0k3n. So over to you, Quest, to kick off our interview with Had0k3n.
Thanks, Luke. So you started on Hyper Street Fighter 2 on PS2, and your dad taught you the basics. At what point did you surpass your dad?
The point, or I'd say, where I surpassed my dad at was when I really started to play as Balrog. I used to main Ryu in the game. He told me to Ryu because he's essentially like a really basic kind of like average.
He's a scrub.
Character. He's an all-rounder.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying your dad was very basic.
No. I'm saying Ryu was an all-around character, kind of like how like Mario is an all-around type of character.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
I started with him, and then after a while, we'd play once every some days in a week. We'd play Hyper Street Fighter 2 or CVS 1. We had on PlayStation. We had that on PlayStation 1, and then we had Hyper on PS2, and we'd play whatever we were feeling. It wasn't until I went off on my own and started exploring videos, tutorials, and finding out characters who I was interested in. Many people think I play Balrog due to his placement in the tier list, but it's the furthest from the truth.
That's what all boxer players would say.
Yeah, but I can assure you, the people who know me before, I really wasn't a Street Fighter. It was mainly because I played his theme. His theme was a big thing. I really love his theme and how similar me and Balrog have a backstory. It's corny, but it matches up with the things I've done in my life too.
Wow, can you go into that? Like what ways do you find your life story similar to Balrog?
Yeah, did you work for M. Bison?
No, I didn't work for a dictator.
Okay.
But I when I was younger, I did grow up in the ghetto, and it wasn't a bad place to grow up in. So similar to him, he would get into fights. I've been into many fights when I was younger and I was a kid, and I just grew up in the ghetto, and living like that, you have to kind of survive on your but luckily I got out of there before it became really impressionable on me, where it'd affect who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say a lot of the things that you might see on his Street Fighter character portrait, like what they'd say he likes money, gambling, and like and stuff like that. Matches up with what I like. I really like to gamble, and money is nice to have. I can't lie. I like having money. And things that he dislikes is math and fish. Mm-hmm. I can't stand seafood, and math was one of my worst subjects in school. So
is he based off? Is it like based off your life story?
No, it was so weird how similar we were, but yeah.
That's amazing.
After
that's awesome.
After I put in a lot of the work, I'd start to beat my dad. He because he told me when we were he told me that Balrog was actually an awful character. He said he was really bad because he had no fireball, which is Champion Edition. He is really bad. He might have been referring to Champion Edition because he is so unbelievably bad in that game.
He's pretty good in hyper fighting, right? Like he's at least he's decent.
Hyper fighting, I'd say you can do well with him. You'd have to put work into him compared to the other characters. But he can be a really scary character if you can get like his good combos and if you have a good neutral.
Yep. So then how did you get into Super Turbo from there? So you were playing with your dad, you're getting pretty good with Boxer. How did you kind of connect with the wider FGC?
What I did was I thought that Hyper Street Fighter 2 was the one everyone was playing because it was the last in the series, so I would play that a lot until like when I would look up videos and I'd see like, I was like, that's so weird. Why are they playing Super Turbo and not Hyper Street Fighter 2? I didn't understand back then that the different modes were different versions of the characters, like World Warrior, Champion Edition. I didn't understand that back then, but I looked into it. I was like, that's so weird. They're playing Super Turbo. So I looked into it more and more, and I discovered Fightcade. This is before I even had a really good computer. I had an old Windows XP machine that didn't even have. It had dial-up on it.
Wow, that's a true Fightcade 1 machine right there. That's vintage Fightcade.
I never ever used Fightcade with dial-up. I knew, I back then. Oh god, that dial-up was awful. But I did have a really old iMac or like what are they called? An Apple laptop.
Yeah.
And what I did,
MacBook.
MacBook, yeah, it was a MacBook, and I would connect it. I'd connect it via USB to each other, and I would have my computer link off of the laptop's Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
that's how I started to get into Fightcade. I didn't understand that it was going to be awful. It was like the very beginning, and I found out about Fightcade and I got on it and I would play. My first ever Fightcade match, I believe it's still even saved on their Fightcade website, where I was playing Ryu against a T-Hawk player. Yeah, and I was doing so bad. It's so embarrassing to watch now.
That's everyone's experience, I think, with Fightcade, is that you think you're pretty good until you get on Fightcade, and then you realize like the skill level that people have.
Yeah,
but now you're on the other side of that equation. Like you're, how did you go from the newest person on Fightcade to being like one of the strongest?
I play pretty much every day. I got on after school. I would say around this time I was maybe like 12 or 13 years old in middle school when I got on like Fightcade. And I actually started Alpha 3. I started to play Alpha 3 seriously because I thought it was a more looked upon game. Like more people would like be interested in it than Street Fighter 2 because of like how it is. But after a while, I started to like Super Turbo more instead of Alpha 3 because when I was so young, everything was so much more complicated. I didn't understand what all the isms did.
Yep, sure.
And I was so overwhelmed with that. But Super Turbo, I think, is a great game to get someone into fighting games because of how easy it is to get in.
Yeah, sure. The simplicity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
well, we'd hope
sorry. The simplicity is nice, but it's kind of like how puzzle games are, where they're easy to play but difficult to master.
Yeah,
I'd say that's how it is exactly for Super Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, we'd hope to see you in Alpha 3 at some point. It's our favorite game, or at least mine. Tell us about New York locals. What is the skill level like, and what is the culture like?
For Super Turbo New York, the problem right now for me is I'm not anywhere near New York City. I need to get that through, because people think
I might have
when
said
say
that
New
in the
York,
intro.
they immediately they assume it's New York City. I can understand why, because it's such a New York City, but it's because I live in Niagara Falls, near Canada, near Toronto. I'm at least like 2 hours away from Toronto.
Yeah, I can tell you have a bit of a Canadian accent going on. I was thinking that.
For Super Turbo in New York, a lot of the good players reside in New York City, like Mega Man X. He's in New York City. He was planning to come out to one of the tournaments we had here in Buffalo, but he didn't make it. But people who are in my area, there's Weird Looking Hippo. He's in Rochester, which is like 2 hours away from where I live. He's a fantastic boxer player. I consider him one of my good friends, and I trust him with teaching me with Super Turbo and helping me out. But there's Weird Looking Hippo, who is the only person I know who is the closest to me that actually plays competitive Super Turbo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're mainly an online player, would you say? Like that's where you kind of learnt most of your skills?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of the things that I've learned come from online and Fightcade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still coming from like competitive. I'm still relatively new. Since I got my license, I can go out to these things now. But because of COVID, I can't go anywhere at all because everything's closed and there's no tournaments open.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So have you ever played against the guys from the West Coast, like the Wednesday night fights, like kind of we just spoke with Killer Miller and El Trouble and all those kind of people. Have you played them in person, or still like more an online thing?
I've played. I have not played any of the one people who are West Coast offline. I haven't been to a major yet. Unfortunately, I'm dying to go. I'm dying to go to Toronto and meet up. I have friends up there in Toronto who are Super Turbo, like really, really, really good at Super Turbo. There's
nice.
Unessential. He's a fantastic Chun-Li player. He's really, really good. And I'm looking forward to go out there with him. And then there was a lot of other really, really strong players I know out there that I have yet to meet. But regarding Wednesday night fights, I have not played any of them offline. I'm pretty sure I've played maybe a few of them online. I've done some of the Monday night Fightcades. The Monday night fight thing that happens. I've done maybe I'd say 2 or 3 of those, but I usually can't do those much because they usually take a very long time, and I did them when I was still in high school, so I still had to go to bed early, and they would start these pretty late because they're in California.
Yeah, the time zone.
So I really couldn't play them. Yeah, I really couldn't play them a lot of the time, as much as I wanted to, and they just took really long. But it was fun the times I did do it.
Yeah, sure.
I just wouldn't do them now because like a tournament, because I just think there's too many issues with online, as in there's so many things that could mess up and change the way things go and results in this person should have won, but there was a lag spike in that round, so this person won. Like that. That's why I usually like to stay away from online tournaments.
Yep. You like Street Fighter 2 hyper fighting, but you hate Championship Edition. Why is that?
Hyper fighting is, I'd say, it's a lot more balanced than Champion Edition, because when I went on the Fightcade when I first started, I went on Champion Edition too, and it was just Dictator. Dictator and Guile would only thing I would come across, and it would be so irritating because I was still new. I didn't know what the hell to do, and I asked handed to me from like Dictator over and over, and I was like, this is insane. And
what's so good about Dictator and Championship Edition? I'm not really familiar with Champion Edition that much.
Dictator and Champion Edition is considered like S tier. He's so busted when it comes to a lot of things he can do. His Psycho Crusher on block hits 6 times on block and can randomly cross up too.
Yeah. Wow. So you can't even just block his Psycho Crusher.
It's better to get hit with a Psycho Crusher in some situations.
Yeah. Wow.
And his block strings are really, really strong too. He's got a lot of priority on his standing heavy kick.
Yep.
Which boxer player did you learn from the most?
The boxer player I'd say I looked up the most to was definitely Afro Legends.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
He was a big inspiration to me when I was starting, and I'd watch a lot of his videos when I'd play, or when I would train, and I'd see what he'd do and some of the techniques he'd get into, and like some of like how he'd deal with certain matchups and what he'd do based on like certain situations in the match.
How would you describe your style with boxer? Like I've seen a few of your YouTube videos, and you love charging a final turnaround punch, or like you've got some pretty insane combos into super. Like, do you kind of follow that play style of trying to do like huge amount of damage with those tools, or what, depending on the matchup, or how would you describe your style for people that haven't seen you play?
To describe my style, it would be either like a weird mix between defensive and extremely offensive. I like to feel my opponent. Like I'd be pretty safe. I'd be pretty defensive in the first round, and I'd get an idea of what they can do. Like, can I punish this pretty well? Are they good against jump ins? Like, can they do these things?
Yep.
And once I can find out, like, oh, they're not good with this, I'd punish it. I'd beat them to the ground, and I'd do all that. Like, they can't react if they couldn't react to a final, because a lot of my friends tell me that you shouldn't use final, and they're right. You really should not be using final as like an actual tool in a tournament or anything. But
it's a psychological tool.
Yeah, I use that as a kind of a psychological kind of thing, and because you lose so many good options, you lose crouching medium kick, which is a good like poke, like against like Blanca and Chun-Li, and you lose your fierce kick as well. For knockdown. But it was definitely, I'd say, online I'm more aggressive with finals and doing more type of like risky things because there's nothing really on the line. But
yeah, sure.
Usually in tournament I'd say I'm more generally pretty defensive.
Yep. You're a young player, and when we had Killer Miller on, you asked her, what are some ways we can get younger players into ST? What is your take on that?
I say she was right about that part, about like how you want to like make the game look appealing, as in like the way the game looks itself, not essentially how it plays. Because a way a game looks is also very important, and like understanding like I can't put it in words properly, but like how it looks, just like the way it is.
Attention,
Yeah, some people would rather prefer like a game that is like a 3D type of game, or like they usually turned off by like sprite based type of games and scan lines and how like pixel art type of games. I'd say to like try to make it look, like give it the scan lines, make it look really nice, and like have the colors be really like show a lot of the colors like pop out, because playing on CRT is really, really nice. I'd say it's way different than playing on like a HD TV monitor.
Oh, really? Like, in what way? What do you like about playing on a CRT?
It's such a weird thing. It's so hard to describe it, but like the way the scan lines look with the colors, like the game is designed with scan lines in mind.
Okay.
So when playing on like a normal HD monitor, it looks a little strange. But on Fightcade 2, they implemented the scan lines.
Yep.
And that makes the game look a lot nicer, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Would you hook up your computer to a CRT monitor to play on Fightcade?
I don't. I used to have an old CRT monitor, but we got rid of it because it broke.
Yeah, fair enough.
But if I did come across a CRT monitor anywhere, I would definitely pick it up to use for Fightcade.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I told the lead developer of Fightcade 2, Shine, that we had some online players on, and he is interested in your opinion on ranked play and first 2 sets.
For online, I was talking about this in the Fightcade, and not Fightcade, in the Super Turbo Discord about ranked matches. I personally don't think they're useful. Ranked matches online seem kind of they're kind of dumb to me, in my opinion, because when you get ranked and you show like the players' rankings on Fightcade, it's gonna turn a lot of people off, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that person's A rank, yeah, I'm only a C rank," and they're challenging me. I'm gonna automatically decline it because they're gonna whoop my ass instantly.
Yep.
I think that can turn off a lot of new players too. Like people are trying to get into Super Turbo, they're gonna be afraid to even like challenge anyone. And since a lot of these Super Turbo players on Fightcade have been on for forever, they're gonna be going up the ranks like almost immediately to A rank.
Yep. At what point should it? Sorry. Continue?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, at what point should a beginner start playing competitive players on Fightcade? Because I know it can be discouraging if someone doesn't know even the basic controls. So.
I'd say once you like understand, if you could do like specials consistently, then I'd say try go and try do a match with a ranked player, and if you get your ass handed to you, then it's just a learning experience on what you need to do and what you need to find out what you got to do right, instead of getting your ass handed to you so fast. Just I'd say look at your replays and study up and watch these other players too. With the spectating option on Fightcade 2,
Yep.
Definitely watching players play and seeing what they're doing is definitely going to help you build more confidence in fighting newer in ranked players.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so
what do you think as a more experienced player, what can you do to help people that are just starting out?
I'd say like what would I do to help them?
Yeah, so someone who's just started, they can throw fireballs, 9 times out of 10, but they basically get bopped by everyone on Fightcade. Like, if you're playing against them, what kind of things can you do to help them out?
I would play the person, and then I'd get a feel. I wouldn't play boxer.
Yeah.
I would go someone like my secondary. I'd go DJ, and I'd see. I'd go, okay, this person is having a lot of trouble with dealing with cross-ups. I would, after the match, and we're just like waiting on the character select screen, I tell them, hey, you want me to look into some of these things that I've noticed you're very bad at, like dealing with cross-ups, fireballs, and like jump-ins, dealing with like jump-ins and anti-airs. I'd pay close attention on how they're dealing with these situations, and then I tell them, you got to work on this. Go in training mode, see what works. Look on the ST Wiki, find out what some of the players, what they say what you should do. Look into that and research.
Yeah, wow. So you have a very kind of not really academic, but just like research-based way of approaching the game. It seems like you do a lot of study of the game outside of just playing a lot.
Yeah, a lot of my what I've learned is reading up on players, what they have to say, talking to a lot of the players. Because the good thing about Super Turbo, what I like, is a lot of the good, like the top players aren't they aren't super famous with sponsors and everything.
Yeah, sure. So you can still talk to them.
Yeah, like Alex Baye, he's a top ST player and he's really famous and he has like sponsors and stuff. So usually you really couldn't talk to him like in a Twitter DM.
Yeah.
But a lot of because he doesn't necessarily play ST super consistently like other players do.
Yeah, he kind of drops in and out, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'd say a lot of the players who are consistently good, like El Trouble, Killer Miller, talk to them. They're not rude. They're some of the nicest people I've talked to online.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
And they're not gonna turn down a question. If you need help with something, they'd be happy to from me talking to them, it seemed like they'd be happy to give you some advice, help you out. And that's what I like about Super Turbo, since it's not such a huge sponsor-heavy game.
Yeah,
you can easily talk with other community members about the game.
Yeah, that's true. That's really big compared to it feels like something like Street Fighter 5, the big players are so removed from the grassroots scene that you'll never be able to play against them, talk to them,
Yeah.
It's a completely different world.
They're intentionally intimidating. Like, oh my gosh, they're so high ranked. They have a blue check mark on Twitter. Oh, I can't talk to them. They're not going to respond. Yeah. I'm like a speck to them.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas it doesn't feel like that in Super Turbo at all. Like you go on Fightcade, you can play the best player from your country or your area, and you see the standard. You can see what you need to get to.
Exactly, and that's one of the good things. That's one of my favorite things about this game.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Alpha 3 as well. Mm-hmm. You said you watched David Serlin tutorials. What sort of things did you learn from them?
From those Serlin tutorials, I've learned helped me piano inputs, on joysticks, understanding a lot of the terms. The terminology is one of the big things.
Yeah, so he talks about safe jumps and stuff as well.
Yes, understanding safe jumps. I've learned a lot from that. I still personally have trouble with safe jumps. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a lot harder to do online because sometimes it can lag. There's so many variables that could happen. But from his tutorials I've seen, I think they're pretty good for a beginner to just look into. Just watch that series and then be like, okay, all right. So a safe jump, cross ups, stuff like that. Option selects.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. You mentioned pianoing. How is your development with DJ and his machine gun upper?
Yeah.
I've been practicing a lot of DJ combos recently, and I'm starting to play them a lot more. And it did take me about a week of every day I'd go on training mode on 30th Anniversary Collection, and I'd practice cross up, jab, crouching fierce, cancel into machine gun.
Wow, that combo is insane. That does so much damage.
It's I believe it's a touch of death too. So if you can get it again on stun, then they'll die. I practiced it for a week, and I've been able to get it down very consistently. And I have landed the that online, and I've done it on Debo on one of his streams. Yeah,
nice, good stuff. Yep. Is that your go-to combo? I think I kind of do the scrub version of that, which is cross up medium kick, jab, machine gun upper. Is the one with fierce canceling into machine gun upper, is that how hard is that? Is that practical to get on a consistent basis, or is it is that your go-to combo with him?
That would be that usually that is my go-to combo, depending on character matchup, character dependent. Not.
Oh really? Okay.
Blanca you couldn't do because I believe his ball is one frame, so crossing him up is a bad idea unless the other person can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But usually that is meant to go with against characters like Ryu, Guile, especially because he has such a wide hitbox or a wide hurt box. I would do that.
Tick, even if they block, you can tick off that and stuff. It's just it's a crazy good situation to get in.
Oh yeah, yep. And I talked to some of my friends about like doing the DJ combo, and they said I didn't know this. They told me that doing the crouching heavy punch is the harder version. I didn't know that. I thought that was the only way you're supposed to do it.
You know, you don't need to do that. You can go straight off the jab into machine gun upper, right?
I didn't know that. I always thought it was you had to do crouching medium punch.
Right.
So I was doing the hardest one.
Yeah.
On accident, but I guess it paid off.
I think I've seen upper legends do cross up medium kick, jab, crouching medium punch into Sobat or something as well. Sorry, not so. What's his charge back kick special move called?
The up kicks?
No, not the up kicks. The other one, the one where you charge back and then forward and kick.
Oh, I don't know the exact name for that. I think that one is Sobat.
Yeah, I think you can combo into that and then dizzies as well. That I've seen upper legends do that one.
I've been working on that one actually right now. I'm in the middle of trying to get that one working.
Yeah, nice. So when do you use DJ? Is there specific boxer matchups that you don't like when you would switch to DJ?
Usually I like to pick DJ if I'm just like playing for fun or like I'm really just kind of just like trying out new things, seeing like how it would work. Like I know a lot of the matchups with boxers. I play them so much that sometimes it would get boring. Just keep playing them, and then I'd try DJ, and I'd figure out what to do against certain characters and how to like deal with a lot of things. Because Chun-Li is one of my worst matchups. Chun-Li versus Boxer. Yeah, sure. But if I use DJ, I seem to have easier time because he has a fireball.
Yeah. And what's hard about that matchup for Boxer? How does Chun-Li shut him down?
A lot of her normals are absolutely ridiculous. Her like crouch medium kick, her weird neck breaker that can cross up sometimes. Yeah. And it looks like it's gonna cross up, but it doesn't. A lot of those. Yeah. Oh my gosh, those moves are so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty cheesy. And Boxer can't beat that at all. Like as you say, Blanca, you can upball. I think shows you can kind of uppercut if you time it right, but if you reverse or headbutt, does it actually beat the neck breaker? It feels like it's really hard.
It is difficult. It is really it is difficult to do in my opinion because if you get hit with Chuns or if it trades, I believe you'll also get knocked down too.
Yeah.
And Chun can just go back and just throw Kikokens, build meter.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's one of the worst things that you could do in that match is have Chun build meter. You want to be very aggressive in that matchup.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Before this podcast, you told me that Ultra Street Fighter 2 improved your drive. Why that version in particular?
As much as I hate that game, I cannot stand Ultra Street Fighter 2, and I don't understand how people are still playing it. But
are people still playing it? Is there a tournament scene for it at all?
There's no tournaments, no. But there are people I know. There's a Facebook group that I used to be in that would always play that game. But the good thing about the game was it was just an easier way to get online Super Turbo. The netcode was awful, but when you did get a good match, it would be fine, and like ranking on that kind of improved my drive to be one of the good boxer players on there, and it really helped me understand a lot of other Super Turbo concepts, like how Balrog has dash upper cancel into super. That works really well in that game, and there are a lot of glitches in that game that I don't believe appear in Super Turbo. Like there's one that Boxer has where you can do dash ground upper, and while you're holding down forward after the motion, if you press punch correctly, he will immediately do a dash ground after it.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
But
you even have that video where you do a similar thing of turnaround punch immediately cancel into super as well.
It is. But before we get into your videos, I have a question. Before this, here in Australia, we have a lot of strong boxer players. What are your tips for playing the boxer mirror match?
The boxer mirror match. Oh, it's such a dumb matchup because it's literally the definition of a 50-50. If there are two if there are two really, really good boxer players, it's literally a 50-50. I played the last tournament I went to. There was Climax, a fantastic boxer player.
Mm-hmm.
He was at Combo Breaker and he did fantastic there. I fought against him, and the thing you want to do in the matchup is crouching medium punch, buffer it into dash ground.
Mm-hmm.
So if you whiff punish theirs, you'll do a 2-hit combo and it'll knock down. Then you can do jump in, grab. Grabbing boxer is because you can safe jump him every time.
Yeah, okay.
And you can always go for grab.
And he doesn't have much to. I guess he's got to perfectly time a headbutt when you go for the grab or something, or throw, or grab him, grab you himself.
Or super.
Yeah, okay.
You want to do that, and standing fierce punch you want to do too to negate a lot of his dash attempts.
Mm. But you feel like it's just a bit of a crapshoot of who happens to whip punish the other person.
Yeah, it's such a 50. It's such a silly matchup. My friend Weird Looking Hippo hates the matchup. He does not like to do the 50-50 at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people seem to hate mirror matches. There's something about a lot of mirror matches in S. Well, not all of them. Like, I guess the Ryu mirror or something is pretty fun, but like we were talking about the Honda one the other week, and Boxer and even Blanka mirror matches are just stupid as well. Like there seems to be something about playing the same character that really ruins the game in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it is. It's just the way the game is. It's just the weird quirks that it has.
Yeah, or DJ mirrors. They seem to be very defensive.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Fireball. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about your channel. You made a vid where you have Warrior walking with Balrog's theme. Walk us through the process of how you came up with this idea.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, on Twitter, there was the meme for a while. It was based off this YouTube old animation on this old YouTube channel called Games and Wario. Wario is me and my friend's favorite character, and it was such a funny video that we saw. And since it got a lot of popularity on Twitter, many people were doing the thing I did. They did it first, but I wanted to do my own. They they vocoded the entire animation to the American anthem, the entirety of it, or they'll do some other song. And Twitter was flooded with those videos for a while. Yeah. And I just thought it was so funny. I thought I'd do it with something like Balrog's theme.
Yeah, sure. Yep. You have a lot of remixes and stuff of Balrog's theme as well on your channel. Are you a musical person or interested in remixes and that kind of thing?
No, but if you go on YouTube and if you what I do a lot, like I check once every week, is if you go on YouTube, search Balrog's theme, and if you look on upload date, you can find the recent videos of like new remixes. I do that every week to see if there's a new remix. Yes.
Wow. Okay. You're like a super fan of Balrog's theme.
It's embarrassing, but a lot of people like my family is sick of hearing the song. I would hear them. Sometimes I'd hear them hum the theme. Yeah. And then they'd be like, "Oh, you got that song stuck in my head again."
Yeah. Right.
Is it your ringtone on your phone?
No, actually, because there is a
Is your alarm clock?
No, definitely not that. It used to be. There was one remix that used to be.
Yeah.
Because I read about that if you have a song as like an alarm or a ringtone, you'll end up hating the song because it's the alarm.
Yeah.
So I was like, I started to not like that remix anymore. So I was like, okay, I'm done with this. So I turned it off, and I just have like a basic alarm sound at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
But
sorry, continue.
I was gonna go back on a lot of people just know me around here as playing that theme. It's synonymous with me at this point.
Yeah, right.
Like on Fike 2, I was so happy they introduced stage selection.
Stage select, yeah, I was gonna say, so you can pick Balrog stage.
I pick it every time. I never get sick of it. Never ever get sick of it. It's just something about that stage. It's just the best stage in the game. It
We're
is.
talking about the Vegas stage, right? Like the
Yeah, Vegas. Yeah, stage.
Yeah. The like all like just the idea of the stage, the Las Vegas, and there's a whole crowd, and it's like neon lights, and it's just all flashy. It's just something about that. I love it, and the music that goes with it. It's just phenomenal.
It gives it that big fight feel, you know.
Yeah, like it's like a street fight. It's just such a cool stage.
In your vid, Had0k3n Super Turbo Adventure, you went to a barcade in Rochester. What was that like?
It was really cool. That was when I stayed at Weird Looking Hippo's place for about a weekend. I took a weekend off to go stay at his place because he has cabs and actual like arcade hardware to play Super Turbo on.
Yeah, nice.
And we went there after about a few hours of playing Super Turbo. We went to the barcade, Swillburger, and they don't have Super Turbo there. They do have hyper fighting, and we did play a little bit of hyper fighting. The only problem was though is the cab was using an LCD monitor, the buttons and joysticks were really, really weird too. Like they're very uncomfortable to play on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we played for maybe a good 30 minutes, and then we're like, okay, we're done with this. But
when you
we really went there just to play the other arcade games. Like people know me know me for liking old games. Like I love retro games. Like I play. My favorites are like Robotron, Donkey Kong, Berserk, Tapper, a lot of those classics. We went there for the classic arcade games and the food there. We just went to have some fun and not just play ST all night, but we did that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in the video you said one of the Donkey Kong machines is a bootleg. What were the indicators that it was?
There is no Nintendo copyright at all. A lot of the machines were bootlegs. Like they had no copyrights on them, and they were they seemed to be. Some of them were using computers inside instead of the actual arcade.
Yeah, the proper
hardware.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And in the Donkey Kong there, I racked up the high score because they used the first version of the game, which has a bug where you can rack 100 points over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I cheated that game.
Well, it's not cheating if it's in the game. It's in the game.
Yeah. I guess you're
combos are a bug.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I saw your vid, Fightcade Scrub Files, where you beat up low-skill trolls. I like it because it's creative. Has the Mad Gambler seen the vid?
I sent it to him. I saw him again on Fightcade. I haven't seen him since, though. Yeah. Once Fightcade 2 was released, I haven't seen him again.
Maybe he's got a different username.
Maybe, but I haven't fought. I would definitely tell from his playstyle and the way he talks, but I haven't come across anyone like that yet.
What's the backstory for people who haven't seen it?
Well, he's Canadian, so it says on his Fightcade thing, on his flag. We played casuals, and then he started talking trash to me, and how he's like, "Oh, I destroyed your Ryu and Had0k3n," and I was like, "I don't really play them as seriously. I especially don't play Had0k3n seriously at all." He's like, "Yeah, I destroyed you," and I told him, "Okay, let's run it back, best of 5."
Yeah.
And we'll see. And I'll use my main. And he's like, "Okay, all right." So we played, and I don't even believe we finished the set. I think it stopped at 4. He quit after that, and then he started to insult me, and he was like, "Oh, I was already gonna lose because you picked Boxer." And I'm like, "Well, then don't talk trash then. If you know you're gonna get beat." I wasn't even using my main.
Yeah, right. Who does he play?
He was playing Old Sagat.
Okay, well, it's not like that's not a broken character as well.
I said it too. I'm like, well, you're Old Sagat online, and you also have kind of a BS advantage as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, do you see yourself as kind of like a Fightcade vigilante?
No, I wouldn't say I am, but I would if there was a moment about like if there's another type of person like that. There have been 2 people that have been like that, but usually I would like to mess with them because it's so fun. It's so funny seeing them like get so angry over a simple match.
Yeah. Okay.
They would get so furious, and I just find it so hilarious. Like I love to troll the trolls, essentially.
Troll the trolls. I like that slope. Especially with Boxer. Boxer's perfect character for that because he is very infuriating character to play against.
Oh
against
my
a strong
gosh!
Boxer.
Online, Boxer's so dumb because like a lot of things you can't react to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, oh my god! So I wouldn't go easy. I'd go for tick throws. I'd be cheap. I do everything in the book.
Yeah. Infinite throw loops.
Yep. I'd do that just to prove a point. Be like, do you want to talk trash? Well, there you go. Here's your answer.
Yeah.
What else do you have planned for the channel?
Well, I did do a hyper fighting Balrog on his turn punch. What you want to know, like basically like a bare bones kind of tutorial on how the turn punch works, where to use it at in the situations you want to use turn punch.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do a video like that for Super Turbo, like a simple kind of Boxer tutorial on like.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people will be interested in that.
Like a basic kind of thing, because Climax, the Boxer I fought, he did a video like that too, and it was a really good video. I wanted to give my thoughts on how to use him and like what you should do, but for the time being, I still really don't have a really fantastic computer, so I really can't go crazy with like editing and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like screen record, because screen recording's kind of weird on this machine.
Yeah.
But if I ever do get like a really nicer computer, I will definitely be looking into tutorials and stuff.
Yeah, nice.
And live streaming. Definitely, I'll be going into live streaming.
Yeah, because I saw you have a Twitch channel. Is that right?
Yeah, but the problem is, since I'm still only 19 and I'm living with my parents still.
Yep.
I'm currently looking for an apartment right now, and I'm looking for a new job and an apartment to move out with my friend.
Yeah, sure.
We'll have our own internet, and we could splurge on it. So once we have really fantastic internet, and I have more free time, I would definitely be into streaming, because right now it's either I stream or I play Super Turbo. I can't do both.
Yeah.
Whereas
you want to stream Super Turbo, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. Before the podcast, you said you had a story about Climax. What was that?
I don't believe it was a story about Climax. I think it was about weird looking hippo.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but the story does come up. He told me one time that he was playing, I believe it was DGV or another top player. I could totally get this wrong. I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but he was really strong and he was beating him. And during the match, he told me that he landed a 7 on him and it killed. And he told me, like, the audience I was watching went like, oh snap! Like he hit him with a 7.
7.
7. Yeah. Oh my
that was really good. Do you do the Balrog numbers just in everyday life?
Embarrassing, yes, I do.
If someone asks you like, how many bottles of milk do you need? 3.
No, I wouldn't do that. So for my friends, I'd be like, oh, I'll meet you guys at final o'clock. I've said that before, and they're like, okay, because my other friend, he's the same age as me, and he's a little bit into Super Turbo. I'm trying to get him out to go to a tournament, but he's so like, oh, they're so good. I don't want to go. I'm gonna lose so bad. But I told him like I'm not gonna do very well. I really don't have much offline experience either. But it's the learning experience that's what's important.
Yeah, sure.
And what he did too is he would also kind of do the same thing. He would charge final and he'd land it. He would shoot. That's one of the things he loves to do too, because it's so satisfying once you get it.
Yeah, sure.
Corona aside, when will we see you in major ST tournaments?
whenever Corona stops, whenever America can.
You ready?
Yeah, whenever. Yeah, I would go to a major. If I lose, I don't care. I want to meet the people I've talked to. I want to have fun. I want to talk to people that are we have similar interests in.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. And like learn. It's just a learning experience. I just want to just play with friends.
Yep. Well, look, thanks for coming onto the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really enjoyed having you on. To our listeners, thank you for staying till the end. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode, so we'll see you then.
This is a note from future Luke. If you want to check out our second guest Had0k3n's YouTube channel, you can find the link for that in the description.